After years of funding my family's lifestyle, my sister laughed. Maybe next year you'll be invited to the family reunion. Wonder who they'll ask to co-sign their house when I remove myself from their mortgage. That's when I sent the letter removing myself as co-signer, effective in 30 days. Let me explain how I got to this point. I'm 34, work in tech, and make around $200,000 annually from my consulting business and stock options. My family consists of my parents, Robert and Linda, both in their early 60s, and my golden child sister, Stephanie, 37, married to Derek, a serial entrepreneur who's never actually made money from any venture. For the past decade, I've been their invisible safety net, the reliable brother who never asks for anything, but always gets called when bills need paying. I spent weeks documenting every interaction and creating detailed spreadsheets tracking all financial impacts. The number was staggering. I'd given them close to $250,000 over the years. Direct payments, co-signed loans, covered expenses, wedding costs, emergency repairs, you name it. Every time it was supposed to be temporary. Every time they promised to pay me back. The paybacks never materialized. The breaking point was the mortgage. 2 years ago, Stephanie and Derek wanted to buy a $300,000 house, but couldn't get approved due to terrible credit and Derek's inconsistent income from his latest failed business venture. My mother called with that guilt-laden tone she'd perfected over decades, explaining how they needed a stable place to start a family and just needed someone with good credit to co-sign temporarily. I should have said no. Instead, I found myself at the mortgage broker's office signing papers that made me legally responsible for their entire loan. Since then, I've made 7 mortgage payments when Derek's income was temporarily interrupted, plus covered property taxes twice, paid for a new roof when theirs leaked, and replaced their HVAC system. All told, another $30,000 on top of the original co-signing. I kept detailed logs with timestamps of every payment I made and every excuse they gave. But here's what really opened my eyes. 6 months ago, I was helping my dad fix their garbage disposal when I overheard my mother talking to Stephanie in the next room. They didn't realize I could hear every word. "Bryce is getting weird," Mom was saying. "He barely comes around anymore, and when he does, he's so quiet. I'm worried he's becoming one of those bitter single men who just focuses on work." "He's always been antisocial," Stephanie replied dismissively. "At least he's useful for helping with stuff. Did you see the new patio furniture Derek picked out? We're going to need Bryce to cover the gap until Derek's next commission check comes through." I stopped working and listened as my hands started shaking. "You should probably call him this week," Mom continued. "Make it sound like we really need his help. You know he responds better when he thinks it's an emergency." That's when it hit me. I'd been manipulated for years. They weren't grateful family members going through rough patches. They were strategic manipulators discussing the best ways to extract more money from their personal ATM. I finished the repair in silence and left without saying goodbye. That night, I went through my bank statements and calculated the full extent of their financial dependency on me. The number was staggering, $250,000 over 11 years. And they saw me as an antisocial obligation who existed to solve their money problems. That's when I started setting boundaries. I stopped answering Derek's calls about mortgage payments. When Stephanie texted about needing grocery money, I claimed to be busy with work projects. The protests started immediately, but I held firm. Then came the family reunion exclusion. Every 3 years, my dad's side holds a big reunion with about 60 people. When I asked my mother about dates to block out my calendar, she gave me that practiced sympathetic look and said, "We weren't sure if you'd want to come. Space is limited this year, and there are cost considerations. Everyone who comes has to contribute, and we know money's been tight for you lately." Money had been tight for me, the person who'd been subsidizing their lifestyle for over a decade. The contribution? $75. I'd probably spent more than that on lunch that week. When I pressed for details, she admitted the organizing committee, which included Stephanie, my Aunt Carol, and Uncle Mike, had made practical decisions about who to invite. Translation: the family dynamics worked better when the antisocial ATM wasn't there, making everyone feel awkward about their financial requests. I called Stephanie directly. "Mom says there might not be room for me at the reunion." "Oh, Bryce," she sighed like I was being difficult. "You never come to family stuff anymore. We didn't think you'd want to come to this either. Come on, be honest. Would you have come? You hate those things. It's not really your scene. It's a family reunion, Stephanie. My scene is being part of the family. She laughed, not mean, but dismissive, like I'd said something naive. Bryce, you barely tolerate spending 2 hours at Christmas dinner. 3 days of camping with the whole extended family? Please. You'd be miserable, and you'd make everyone else miserable too. The family dynamics work better when it's just the social people. You know what I mean? I knew exactly what she meant. Maybe next year you'll be invited, she said, and I could hear the smile in her voice. Once we see how this one goes, we might be able to work you in. Like I was on a waiting list for my own family. After I hung up, I sat in my apartment thinking about that conversation, about the mortgage payments, about being described as someone who made family dynamics worse by existing. Then I started thinking about that $300,000 mortgage I'd co-signed, the one that showed up on my credit report as a major debt obligation and had prevented me from buying my own house because it pushed my debt-to-income ratio too high. I pulled out my copy of the mortgage documents and read through them carefully. The loan was structured so Stephanie and Derek were primary borrowers, but I was equally liable for the full amount. If they defaulted, the bank could come after me for everything. More importantly, I had the right to remove myself as co-signer with 30 days written notice, provided the primary borrowers could qualify on their own. They couldn't qualify on their own. That's why they'd needed me originally. Their financial situation had only gotten worse. Derek's latest venture, some online marketing consulting firm, was bringing in maybe $1,500 monthly on good months. Stephanie made decent money at her pharmaceutical job, but not enough to carry a $300,000 mortgage plus their lifestyle expenses. Without my co-signature, they'd have maybe 30 days to refinance or sell. Given their credit and income, refinancing was impossible. They'd have to sell, probably at a loss since they'd barely made a dent in the principal after only 2 years. I spent the next week consulting with my attorney about the legal implications. My lawyer explained that in our state, I could remove myself with proper notice, and there was nothing they could do to stop me. The only question was timing. The reunion was scheduled for the second weekend in August. I decided to send the removal notice on August 1st, right in the middle of their planning activities. They could discuss my exclusion while dealing with the consequences. The letter was simple and professional. Dear Stephanie and Derek, this serves as my formal 30-day notice of intent to remove myself as co-signer on your mortgage with First National Bank. This removal will be effective September 1st, 2023. You'll need to contact the bank immediately to discuss refinancing options or loan payoff arrangements. Please confirm receipt. Sincerely, Bryce. I sent copies to them, the bank, and kept one for my records. I also photographed every piece of evidence and documented the entire process with timestamps. The phone started ringing 3 hours later. Bryce, what the hell is this? Derek's voice was tight with panic. We just got your letter. You can't just remove yourself from the mortgage. We have a contract. The contract allows for co-signer removal with proper notice, I said calmly. I've provided proper notice. But why? What's this about? If it's about money, we can work something out. The marketing business is really starting to take off. Derek, you've been telling me your business was about to take off for 2 years. In that time, I've made 7 mortgage payments for you, plus covered property taxes twice and paid for major repairs. I'm done. Bryce, please. This is our home. We can't lose our house because you're having some kind of midlife crisis. I'm not having a crisis. I'm setting boundaries. What boundaries? We're family. Family that doesn't invite me to family reunions. Silence. That's what this is about? The reunion? Bryce, that was just a space issue. We can work something out if you really want to come. I don't want to come, Derek. I want you to understand that actions have consequences. You can't treat someone like they don't matter and expect them to keep funding your lifestyle. We never said you don't matter. The notice has been sent. You have 30 days. I hung up. Stephanie called 20 minutes later, alternating between tears and anger. Bryce, you can't do this. This is our home. Derek's business is starting to work, and I'm pregnant. That stopped me cold. You're pregnant? 8 weeks. We were going to announce it at the reunion. Real tears now. We've been trying for 2 years. You can't take our house away when we're about to have a baby. I felt guilt stab through me, but pushed it aside. Congratulations on the pregnancy, Stephanie, but that doesn't change the situation. Bryce, please, I'm begging you. The reunion thing was stupid. We should have invited you. But don't punish our unborn child because you're mad at us. I'm not punishing your child. I'm removing myself from a financial obligation I should never have taken on. But where are we supposed to go? We can't afford rent on a family-sized place, and our credit is still bad. We'll end up in some terrible apartment. You'll figure it out. You always do. How can you be so cold? This is your nephew or niece we're talking about. It's also my financial future. I've been carrying your expenses for over a decade, Stephanie. I've delayed buying my own home, passed up opportunities, put my life on hold to fund yours. I'm done. She hung up. My parents called that evening, both on the line, with carefully controlled voices. Bryce, Dad began. Stephanie told us about the letter. This seems pretty extreme. I'm removing myself from a financial obligation. That's normal. Son, we raised you to be better than this, Mom said, voice thick with disappointment. Family doesn't abandon family when things get tough. You mean like abandoning me when I wasn't invited to the family reunion? That was different, Dad said quickly. That was logistics. This is their home, their future. Stephanie's pregnant. No, it's your family. I'm apparently just the outsider who pays for things. Mom's voice took on that manipulative tone I knew so well. You're being hurt and emotional right now. We understand. But making financial decisions when you're upset isn't smart. Why don't you withdraw the letter and we can sit down and talk like adults? I've been talking to you like adults for 15 years, Mom. Every time you needed money, every emergency, every failed business venture, I talked, you took, nothing changed. I'm done talking. So, you're going to make your pregnant sister homeless out of spite? Dad's voice was getting harder. I'm going to stop enabling your daughter's financial irresponsibility. There's a difference. This affects the whole family, Mom pleaded. If they lose the house, they'll have to move in with us. Dad's back problems are getting worse. We can't handle a baby in the house. Please, just give them more time. How much more time? It's been 2 years. Derek's business isn't working. Stephanie's spending habits haven't changed. Their credit is still terrible. How much time fixes problems they've had their entire adult lives? Just until after the baby comes. And then what? When the baby's here and they need money for childcare, medical expenses, a bigger car, do I keep the co-signature then too? Silence. This conversation is over. The notice stands. The next 3 weeks were brutal. Daily calls, sometimes multiple times. Stephanie crying about house hunting stress while pregnant. Derek alternating between anger and desperate bargaining. My parents trying guilt, manipulation, threats, promises. They involved other family members too. Aunt Carol called, lecturing me about family loyalty, though she never offered to co-sign a loan herself. Uncle Mike left voicemails about disappointment in my selfishness, but didn't volunteer any financial assistance. Cousin Jennifer sent long emails about how my actions affected the whole family's relationship dynamics, yet made no offer to help Stephanie and Derek directly. But here's the interesting part. None of them offered to help. None volunteered to co-sign a new loan or provide financial assistance. They were all concerned about my moral obligations, but unwilling to take on any obligations themselves. The reunion happened without me. I saw Facebook pictures of everyone looking happy and relaxed. Stephanie was there, showing off her tiny bump, accepting congratulations and sympathy for her housing situation. I wondered if anyone asked where I was or felt even slightly guilty about excluding me while expecting continued funding. On August 25th, with 6 days left before the removal became effective, Derek called with what he thought was a brilliant solution. Bryce, I talked to someone who knows real estate. He says we can get a private mortgage from an investor, higher interest rate, but we could qualify without a cosigner. That sounds like a great solution. The thing is, we need $15,000 up front for loan fees and closing costs. I know that sounds like a lot, but it would solve everything. We could pay you back over the next year, and you'd be completely off the hook. I actually laughed out loud. Derek, you want me to give you $15,000 so you can get a loan to replace the loan I'm co-signed on? It's not giving, it's lending. It's a solution that works for everyone. Everyone except me, who'd be out another $15,000 you'd never pay back. We would pay it back. This is different. How is it different? Because it would be a smaller amount, and my business is really picking up now. Stephanie's promotion came through. We'd have the cash flow. Derek, if your cash flow improved, you'd be making mortgage payments without me covering them. Those were special circumstances. The business has seasonal fluctuations. The answer is no. Bryce, please. Stephanie's stress levels are through the roof. The doctor says too much stress could affect the pregnancy. Do you really want to be responsible if something happens? I'm not responsible for Stephanie's stress levels, Derek. You are. You're the one who failed to provide stable housing for your pregnant wife. How can you say that? I've been busting my ass trying to build something. It means you're not reliable. You make promises you can't keep and commitments you can't honor. I'm done trusting you with my financial security. He hung up. September 1st came quietly. I received confirmation from the bank, acknowledging my removal as co-signer. The mortgage was now solely Stephanie and Derek's responsibility. They stopped calling after that. Family pressure continued another week or two, but eventually faded. I think they realized I wouldn't change my mind, and there was no point wasting energy trying to manipulate me. I heard through mutual acquaintances they were looking at smaller rental houses, trying to find something affordable on their own. Stephanie had to give up lifestyle elements she'd gotten used to. The nice neighborhood, big yard, attached garage. Reality was setting in. Within 2 weeks of the bank taking over full responsibility, Derek's marketing business completely collapsed when his main client discovered he'd been inflating his results. Without my financial backing, they couldn't weather even small setbacks. The house went into foreclosure proceedings by mid-October. In October, I got a text from Mom. Stephanie and Derek found a rental, 3-bedroom house in Whitehall. Not the nicest area, but affordable and close to Stephanie's work. Baby due in March. I didn't respond, but I was relieved they'd found something. Despite everything, I didn't want them homeless. In November, I bought my own house. With my improved debt-to-income ratio, I got approved for a mortgage on a beautiful 4-bedroom colonial in Upper Arlington. Good neighborhood, great schools for the future, big backyard, 2-car garage. Everything I'd wanted but couldn't afford while carrying Stephanie's mortgage. The financial advisor showed me how removing the co-signature had saved me approximately $180,000 in potential liability and improved my credit score by 40 points. I posted a few pictures on social media after moving in. Lots of congratulations from colleagues and friends, but complete silence from my family. At Christmas, I received a generic holiday card from my parents with a brief note. Hope you're well. Love, Mom and Dad. No dinner invitation, no reconciliation attempt. Just acknowledgement I existed. Stephanie didn't send anything. I spent Christmas volunteering at a homeless shelter, serving meals and organizing donations. It felt better than any family gathering I could remember. Being around people genuinely grateful for help, who understood struggle and didn't take generosity for granted. In February, Mom called to say Stephanie had the baby, a healthy boy named Tyler. She sent a picture, and I'll admit it hit me harder than expected. He was tiny and perfect. For a moment, I felt regret about not being part of his life. But then I remembered years of being treated like a walking ATM, all the dismissed needs and feelings, the casual cruelty of exclusion while being expected to fund their lifestyle. I sent brief congratulations and deleted the picture. 3 months later in May, Derek called for the first time since September. His voice was different, humbler, more defeated. Bryce, I know we haven't talked, and I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I need to ask something. I didn't respond. The baby's been having health issues, nothing life-threatening, but expensive. Stephanie's on maternity leave, so money's really tight. We're behind on rent, and our landlord's making eviction noises. Still nothing from me. I'm not asking for a handout, he continued quickly. I know those days are over, but I was wondering, do you know anyone in real estate who might be hiring? I'm thinking about getting out of consulting, maybe getting a real job with steady income. I'd take anything, assistant, paperwork, whatever. I just need reliable work. This was the first time in 15 years Derek had asked for help finding work instead of money. I might know someone, I said finally. Send me your resume, and I'll see what I can do. Really, thank you, I mean it. This could turn things around for us. I did know someone. A colleague who'd started a property management company and needed someone for tenant relations and maintenance coordination. Not glamorous, but steady with decent pay at $45,000 annually. Derek got the job. 3 weeks later, he called to thank me again and report he was doing well. Having a regular paycheck was helping them catch up on expenses. I should have done this years ago, he admitted. All that time chasing big dreams when I should have focused on taking care of my family. I get it now. I hoped he did. 6 months later, Derek called again. This time his voice had confidence I'd never heard before. Bryce, I wanted to thank you and apologize for everything. The way we treated you, the money stuff, all of it. I've been doing some thinking and I realized how unfair we were. Okay, I said, unsure where this was going. Having a real job, having to show up and be responsible every day, it's made me understand things about myself, about how I was living before. I was basically a child letting other people handle adult responsibilities while I played with fantasy businesses. Derek, let me finish, please. I know I can't pay you back for everything. We calculated it out. It's close to $200,000 over the years. That's insane. I can't believe we took that much from you. Actually, it was closer to $250,000, but I didn't correct him. But I want to start paying you back anyway, even if it takes 20 years. We're putting together a payment plan, maybe $200 a month to start, more as we get our finances in order. It's not much, but it's something. Derek, you don't have to. Yes, I do, because here's what I figured out. You weren't just giving us money all those years. You were giving us the chance to avoid growing up, avoid taking responsibility for our choices. That wasn't helping us in the long run. He paused. Stephanie's been thinking too. She wants to call you, but she's scared. She knows she messed up, especially with the reunion thing. God, Bryce, I can't believe we excluded you from a family event and expected you to keep paying our mortgage. That's so screwed up. Yeah, it was. Would you be open to talking to her? She's different now. Having Tyler, almost losing the house, it changed her perspective. She knows she took you for granted. I thought about it. Maybe. But Derek, no more loans, no more financial help. That part is over permanently. I understand. And Bryce, thank you for everything. I know we didn't deserve it, but you kept us afloat for years. We wouldn't have made it without you. After we hung up, I sat in my home office looking out at my backyard, thinking about the conversation. It was the first time Derek had ever acknowledged the full extent of what I'd done for them. The first time anyone in my family had recognized my sacrifices. It felt good. Not good enough to erase 15 years of being taken for granted, but good enough to crack open the door to possible forgiveness someday. 2 weeks later, Stephanie called. Bryce, it's me. I recognized her voice, but it sounded different, older, more tentative. Hi, Stephanie. I don't really know where to start. Derek said you two talked, and he told me about the payment plan idea. I wanted to call and say, well, a lot of things. She took a breath. First, I'm sorry for all of it. Taking your money, taking you for granted, treating you like you didn't matter. The reunion thing especially. That was cruel, and I knew it was cruel when we decided it. But I told myself it was practical, that you wouldn't want to come anyway. Why didn't you want me there, Stephanie? Honestly, because you made me feel guilty. Every time I saw you, I was reminded of how much you'd done for us and how little we'd done for you. It was easier to exclude you than face that reality. At least she was being honest. And I was jealous, she continued. Here you were, always having your life together, always responsible, always successful. I was the older sister who couldn't keep a job, couldn't manage money, couldn't even afford to live without my little brother's help. It was embarrassing. So you decided the solution was to treat me worse? I decided to pretend it wasn't happening, to pretend we were equals, that you helping us was just normal family stuff and not something extraordinary. It was easier than admitting I was the screw-up. We talked for almost an hour. She told me about Tyler, about how being a mother had forced her to think about responsibility and priorities in ways she never had before. She talked about the stress of almost losing their housing, about Derek's transformation since getting real work, about the budget they were living on now. I want you to meet Tyler, she said toward the end. When you're ready, no pressure, no agenda. He's your nephew, and I think he should know his uncle, but only if you want to. I'd like that, I said, and meant it. And Bryce, Derek told you about the payment plan, right? We know it's not nearly enough and it'll take forever, but we want to start somewhere. You don't have to do that, Stephanie. Yes, we do. Because Derek was right. You weren't just giving us money. You were enabling us to avoid growing up, and that needed to stop for our sake as much as yours. After we hung up, I realized something had shifted, not back to the old dynamic that was gone forever, but towards something new that might actually resemble a healthy family relationship. A month later, I met Tyler for the first time. He was 6 months old, chubby and alert, with Derek's dark hair and Stephanie's blue eyes. They'd invited me to their rental house, small but clean and comfortable. Nothing fancy, but clearly a home where a family was being raised. We had dinner together, and for the first time in years, I felt like I was actually part of a family gathering instead of an outsider who happened to share DNA. Stephanie asked about my work and seemed genuinely interested. Derek talked about his job and learning to enjoy employment stability. They showed me Tyler's room, told me about his schedule, included me in the mundane details that make up family life. When I left that night, Stephanie hugged me goodbye. "Thank you for giving us another chance," she said. "Thank you for becoming people worth giving a chance to," I replied. That was 8 months ago. Derek has been making his $200 monthly payments religiously. I've received 6 payments so far, all on time, and accompanied by brief notes updating me on their progress. At this rate, they'll have paid back the full amount in approximately 21 years, assuming they never miss a payment. Stephanie and I text occasionally now, usually sharing Tyler pictures or family updates. She asks about my life too, and seems to actually listen to the answers. My parents called on my 35th birthday last month, the first time they had acknowledged my birthday in 3 years. The conversation was awkward but civil, and Mom asked if I'd like to come to Christmas dinner this year. "What about Stephanie and Derek?" I asked. "They'll be there too, if you're comfortable with that." "I am. So, this will be the first Christmas in 4 years I'll spend with my family. I'm cautiously optimistic it'll be different this time, that I'll be welcomed as a family member rather than tolerated as an obligation. But if it's not, that's okay too. I've learned to be happy without their approval, to build a life based on my own values instead of their expectations. I've learned that sometimes the best thing you can do for people you love is stop enabling their worst behaviors. As for Aunt Carol and Uncle Mike, they both reached out separately last month to apologize for their harsh words during the crisis. Neither offered any explanation for why they hadn't helped Stephanie and Derek themselves, but both acknowledged that I'd been carrying an unfair burden for years. Cousin Jennifer sent a brief email saying she understood my position better now that she'd had her own financial struggles with family members. The lesson here is simple. Document everything, know your legal rights, and don't be afraid to use them. Strategy beats emotion every time, and sometimes the only way to save a relationship is to be willing to lose it first. When I ran the numbers, removing myself as co-signer saved me from potential bankruptcy and allowed me to build the life I actually wanted. This decision saved me approximately $180,000 in potential liability and gave me back my financial freedom. The key to protecting yourself is understanding that enabling someone isn't helping them. It's preventing them from learning to help themselves. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let people face the consequences of their choices.